at the end of the day, if you're not doing something that you enjoy or that you love doing, you're going to spend most of your life working. So, like, what's the point in doing something that you don't enjoy? And that's kind of the mindset I had. And I think it was probably easier for me because the work was like so unenjoyable that it was easier to push me out of it, because I was finding myself like my mental health was suffering. Like, why am I doing this? I'm doing this to earn money and then I've got no time to spend it. When, like, I think I also had a real realization on like how important money is to me, and like that it's actually not as important as maybe I thought it was leaving school. And I'm a lot happier earning like less money than I was earning then.
Sure.
But
Yep.
like pursuing a passion and spending every day doing something that I love.
What's going on, everybody? My name is JP, and I want to welcome you here to the Stable Cyclist podcast, where we talk about bikes, life mentality, and mental health. And I am so thankful you are here with me today. If you enjoy what you hear as you listen to this conversation between myself and Maddy Nutt, I want to encourage you to share it with someone else. And also, if you are listening on one of the main platforms, give us a 5-star review, please, and thank you. And also, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, do me a huge favor and write us a review. If you are watching on YouTube, be sure you are subscribed and hit that thumbs up button. As I said, my guest today is Maddy Nutt, professional gravel racer from Great Britain. This conversation takes place across the ocean as she is in London. And one last thing before we get Maddy in here, I want to remind you the Stable Cyclist podcast is brought to you by Flow Formulas. If you are training for a big race or just a big adventure, you want Flow Formulas in your bottles before, during, and after, as they have all the products that can take care of you during those times. And when you go to check out, at the end of your order, you can use the code JohnPeter15 at checkout to get a discount on all those goodies. All right. Enough of all that, let's get Maddy into the studio. Well, Maddy Nutt, welcome to the Stable Cyclist podcast. You are my first across the ocean interview on this podcast, so welcome.
Wow, I didn't realize you hadn't had a Brit on before, or a non-US rider. That's cool.
I've had right before I got on with you, I finished interviewing Alexis Cartier from Canada, but no one overseas, so this is exciting. So, and I shouldn't say that now that I think of it. Thomas Euler was on, but he's more like media, so you're my first racer. So yeah, welcome. You just finished racing like 2 days ago when we're recording this, the World Championships for gravel in the Netherlands. So tell us all about that adventure.
Yeah, I just raced what was the UCI Gravel World Championships, what some people have defined as the Bike Path World Championships in Maastricht, the Netherlands. It was a really fun race, but it was an interesting definition of gravel. But I think that's what makes gravel so great, is like, depending on where you're racing, like the kind of gravel, the type of course, like the terrain is just so different. So like, the Gravel World Champs in the Netherlands was like a lot of tarmac, a lot of like actual bike paths, a lot of very like hard packed gravel, some slippy gravel to be fair, and then there were like 2 descents that were pretty fast. One had ruts, but apart from that, it was unlike any racing I've ever really done, apart from road races, which I did years ago. So like the dynamics of the race was more like a road race, and it was all about your positioning going into the first gravel sector, which I completely messed up. And I knew that it was really important to get basically into the gravel sector as far up as possible. And when I hit the first gravel sector, I turned around and I realised I had made the front group, but so had 80 women. And I was literally like the 80th into the first gravel sector. Yeah.
Sure. So you've raced all over the world, and we're going to get into that in much more detail. But the UCI Gravel Worlds, when I look at the start list, it's kind of a slice of a lot of people from a lot of different disciplines, and not necessarily true. It doesn't look necessarily like the start list at the Traca, for example. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's definitely more of a like mix of people than a typical gravel race. I think especially this course, I think it will be different next year when it's in Western Australia, and
Sure.
like obviously that's miles away, and like it's going to be a
It's
lot
miles
more,
away from anything.
yeah, and a lot more gravelly and obviously expensive to get to and stuff like that. But like
Yes.
if you're going to put a world championships in Holland, then all the Dutch riders are going to show up
Yeah.
regardless of their like whether they've ever even raced a gravel race before. Like there were
Sure.
people in the men's and women's who've never raced a gravel race before. So I think, yeah, it was a slightly rough road classic. So it made sense for road riders, like classic road riders, to race it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just kind of what you get with some of the UCI races. But the UCI races also like vary massively. Like I did one in Kenya that was super rough, super sandy, and I had to walk parts of it. So
Yeah.
it's just totally, yeah, dependent on where you are in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we went straight into racing there, which honestly we usually don't talk about too much on the show, but it was very relevant. But talk to me about how you get into this wonderful world of gravel bike racing, because you are basically full-time pro at this point, if I have connected the dots and listened carefully enough to their podcasts. So how do we get here where this is what you're doing, or how do we even get started in this?
So I started riding bikes when I was 20, which is pretty late on the like scale of most people who race bikes full time. So I started riding bikes when I was 20, and I just kind of fell in love with cycling very quickly, was spending like a lot of my free time riding. And then I ended up like I started racing a little bit locally and really enjoyed it. I did a couple of gravel races. I think I did two gravel races. One which was Grinduro, which is like timed enduro segments. I actually didn't have a gravel bike, but the podium prizes for that were saddles, and I came third in like the age group. So I won a saddle, and I joked that I'd buy a bike for the saddle if I podiumed. So I followed through with that and bought a gravel bike with all my summer earnings that year. And then, yeah, I did a gravel race, and then I actually started working full time. So I worked in finance in London for the best part of about 6 months before I was like, this isn't my passion and I'm not loving what I'm doing every day. And I was working for at least 12 hours every day, well, Monday to Friday, and didn't have time to train and really missed it. So yeah, I ended up resigning to kind of give cycling a go with very little like evidence that I was good enough to give
Sure.
cycling a go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I signed with like a domestic team in the UK that was like a non-professional team but a sponsored team, and they kind of took a punt on me because I didn't have particularly good results. I'd got my like second cat road license in the UK. I think it's different from America categories,
Yeah.
but within like a very short time in a season. So I had that license, and they like let me race on the road and then also do some gravel racing, and that's where I really fell in love with gravel racing that year. So that was the first year of the UCI Gravel World Series, so I did some of those races. And yeah, I just kind of threw myself at gravel a little bit as the year progressed, and I worked part-time to fund that year as a tutor, tutoring maths online because it was super flexible. And then yeah, at the end of that year I did the world champs, and I finished, I think it was like 29th, and it wasn't a super big field like this year because obviously
Sure.
it just growing so much. But I kind of racing that made me realize, you know what, I love this, and I reckon I can like talk to some sponsors and see if I can like make a thing of it as a privateer. And yeah, from then I basically just year on year built on like the program I've been running and like the sponsorships I've got, and I've built out my social media. I started a YouTube channel, and yeah, I've reached a point now where I'm doing it full time, which is epic. But it has taken 4 seasons to get to that point. But yeah, it's been worth it 100%. Like looking back, I think I'm so glad I made that decision and made that gamble. But also looking back, I was nowhere near as fit as I am now then, and I don't know how I thought I could make it. But
Well, yeah, I want to go back to that, because that's one of the things when I've heard your story, you essentially decided to like step off of the cliff and see what was there.
yeah,
And I've heard you mention like I didn't have a big social media presence. I didn't have a YouTube channel. and I was trying to just get brands and teams to support me. What I think this is relevant to a lot of people that listen to this that aren't necessarily trying to become professional bike racers, but they're just trying to like maybe step out of their field that they're in working, or they want to do something else. And so I want to just talk through the psychology of you convincing yourself this was all right to do, or that you could do it. And so, like, how did that go about? Because you're trying to sell a story that you know is yours, but nobody else can see it at this point. And also, it's just a hard thing to do. So tell us about this.
It's a good question. I think it was a mix of two things. I think one thing was when you throw yourself in that position, you kind of have to make it work. So I think a little bit was like, I have to make this work for like survival. So I think I kind of threw myself off the edge. But I also think I did do it in a way where like I knew I could earn money because I'd been tutoring part-time like since I was 18. As soon as I left school, I started tutoring maths online, and like it was something that I'd always done. So I knew I could earn good money and like flexibly doing that. So I knew I wasn't financially in a hugely risky position. So that kind of made it better. But yeah, I think it's one of those things where like at the end of the day, if you're not doing something that you enjoy or that you love doing, you're going to spend most of your life working. So like, what's the point in doing something that you don't enjoy? And that's kind of the mindset I had. And I think it was probably easier for me because the work was like so unenjoyable that it was easier to push me out of it, because I was finding myself like my mental health was suffering. Like I'd have to like take little crying breaks in the toilets in the office. So like when I reached that point, I was like, okay, I'm struggling to get through the 12-hour days and like get through them without finding it really frustrating and stressful. And like I had really bad jaw tension, like things like that. Like physically, I kept getting sick. I knew that I was run down. I think I was pushed to such an edge that it was maybe easier to leave, because I was like, okay, this really isn't good for me and I'm really not happy. So yeah, it was a combination between being like obviously unhappy, but also thinking, well, like, why am I doing this? I'm doing this to earn money, and then I've got no time to spend it. When like, I think I also had a real realization on like how important money is to me, and like that it's actually not as important as maybe I thought it was leaving school. And I'm a lot happier earning like less money than I was earning then, but like pursuing a passion and spending every day doing something that I love. Yeah.
When you were, obviously today I would guess the bike is a big part of mental health management for you, as it is for me as well. But when you were in that position, working finance, having a cry in the restroom on a break, what were you trying to do to help yourself move through that beyond having hope of something different down the line?
I'd ride to and from work. So that was kind of like my switch off every day. So I lived like an hour bike ride through Richmond Park to like the city. So I would like ride to the office, ride home. The only problem was I was so lacking in energy that it was really hard. And I also had to leave at 5:30 in the morning. So it was like 5:30 in the morning, and I rode in the dark both ways. But I feel like that commute, did help me in a way. And I also like treated myself to really nice food. That was my other way of managing it. And when I first started working, because it was like just after COVID pandemic, they had like incentives to get us in the office, even though I had to be in the office every day. But one of the incentives was free ice cream every day from 2 till 4. So I would literally go and have an ice cream break every afternoon on the terrace. So that was another way I got through every day.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, needless to say, I was like maybe 10 kilos heavier after 6 months there.
Well, trade-offs, right? Trade-offs.
Yeah.
Okay, for those not familiar with where Richmond Park is, you are in London.
Yeah.
Are we talking like Arsenal, Tottenham part of London, or are we talking Chelsea part of London, or what? Where in London are we? For those of us that associate London with teams or geographical parts.
I'm West London. If it helps with football, I'm right by Brentford Stadium.
Yep.
So I'm Kew Bridge. So like, West London. I grew up in Southwest London.
Okay.
a bit further. I grew up south of the river. I'm now on the river, but north of the river.
Sure.
But yeah, West London is quite a nice part of London. I like, this is the kind of greener part of London. Southwest, west, you have more parks, you have more like, it's more of a family part of London, less of like the cool where the young people live. But a bit better for cycling.
Sure. Hey, you can be uncool and have good greenery spaces to be in. That's awesome. So
I mean, it's not quite the best place to live in the world for cycling, but if you're going to live in London, it could be worse.
yeah, how far do you have to go to get to gravel where you are?
Well, because I live literally on the Thames, I could just go on the Thames path, which is gravel, but like there will be hundreds of people walking their dogs and running.
Yeah.
So to get to, and then around Richmond Park, there's this thing called the Thamesend Trail. So there's a 10-kilometer loop. Again, you will be like riding at 10k an hour. There's actually a speed limit of 10 miles an hour on that.
Of course.
To get to like proper gravel, I would say the gravel starts in a town called Esher, which is maybe like an hour off to get to like riding like off-road and like back streets, or like 45 minutes direct on the bike. But yeah, I wouldn't say, like, there is gravel, there definitely is gravel south from here. It's, you can only really go south to get good gravel. I've also got the canal, the Grand Union Canal starts in Brentford and goes all the way to like Leicester, further, like goes really far north, Birmingham maybe. So like there is off-road riding here, but I don't typically train off-road when I'm at home.
Sure. All right. So you have your racing calendar is as diverse as anyone I've seen when I look at it. You've raced Migration, you raced the Rift mountain bike race. I think you've raced in Mexico. You've raced all over the world. You're getting ready to leave as we're having this conversation to South Africa to race. How do you put together your schedule, and how do you determine like this is where I want to go, and then figure out how to get your teams behind what you're doing?
Really good question. I feel like a lot of it's based off like personal travel interests. So like sometimes I'm like, I see a race and I'm like, I'm excited to do that. I'm gonna put that on my calendar for next year. I'm really lucky that the sponsors I work with are really supportive of, apart from like a couple of races where they're like, okay, we're keen for you to do this, but like most of my sponsors are super happy with me being like really flexible and just picking races that excite me. But yeah, I think I'm like one of the most traveled gravel racers for sure.
For sure you are.
Yeah, I love traveling. I love seeing the world. Like this year I started in Morocco.
Okay.
I did Sahara gravel, and then I was off to Brazil, and then I spent like a month in Chile, and then I've been to Iceland, I did Unbound in the US, definitely been to Spain, been to Finland, Iceland again, and then just been to the Netherlands. So like, and that's probably not my most traveled year. I think the year before was, I also went to Kenya this year, didn't I? Yeah, I've had a pretty high travel year, but I love it. Like, I just love doing new races. I also think in terms of like content wise, it's really fun to go to a new race, capture it, and like share that on like YouTube, for example, or on Instagram, and then like encourage other people to go to like maybe lesser known races or like races in more interesting places.
Yeah.
So for example, next year I'm going to do this 8-day stage race in Colombia, and like I'm sure that will get like people being like, oh my god, there's an 8-day stage race in Colombia, let's go. Like, it 100%. Looks incredible.
Yeah. When did you travel a lot before you were racing the bike?
That's a good question. I did, but nowhere near as much as I do now. I think I've always loved travel. Having like being a bike racer is actually like really hard for travel because you have to travel with a bike all the time. I definitely did like traveling. I used to go to Spain quite a lot, and I learned to speak Spanish by like spending my summers in Spain.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely didn't travel as diverse places as I have since like being a bike racer.
Do you say you speak Spanish? What other languages do you speak?
Oh, just Spanish and English.
Okay.
Yeah.
But does that help lower for you the barrier of entry to some of these trips, that you have that card that you can play, or is it not really a concern a lot of the places you go?
I'd say it does actually really help. So like I've done Gravel Mexico twice, and
Yep.
like both of those trips I didn't speak English the whole trip. And like the race I did in Chile this year, again, like I didn't really speak much English. Like my friend Sarah's Canadian and she did it, and she was like the only non-Spanish speaking person who did the
Okay.
race. So like for her it was actually really hard because some people didn't really
Yeah.
speak English. So
Yeah.
it was a stage race and we'd socialize in the evenings, and like sometimes I'd like be a bit of a translator between her and someone. So yeah, it does definitely make a difference if you can speak the language, because yeah, like the one that I thought would be easier than it was I wasn't hesitant going to Brazil because I was like, oh, South America, I know it's Portuguese speaking, but like surely they'll speak Spanish. Turns out they don't speak Spanish.
No, they
So
don't.
no, and like they don't really speak much English. So like
Right.
Brazil was probably the hardest from a language perspective that I've had this year. But yeah, it definitely does make it easier to hop on a trip. Like Colombia, I'm not even hesitant going to Colombia.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Do you typically travel alone, or do you have somebody that travels with you? Because I think so many people hear this and there's so many cool races to go do to add to bucket lists. But like you said, you're traveling with a bike. That's kind of stressful. And if there's language barriers, that can be problematic too. And so have you always been able to just fly solo on this, and you're just like that personality that can handle it, or do you travel with a companion?
It's a mix. Sometimes I travel on my own, and sometimes I like find a friend to do a similar race to me. So like for example, Chile, like I had my friend Sarah from Canada, she also did that race. Or like the first time because I've done Migration Gravel Race 3 times, and the first time I did it, I was only 24, maybe I was 25, but I was the youngest race participant that year. And I did do it with a friend, like me and a friend went together. And I think that would have been really bold to do on my own. But then the subsequent 2 years I did on my own. And because I'd done the trip, like
Sure.
I knew like the lay of the land, like I
Yeah.
knew how to navigate Nairobi, how to navigate Kenya. But I do think it totally depends on the location. So like Gravel Burn, for example, in South Africa in 2 weeks' time, where I'm traveling in a couple of days, I've made a friend at Migration Gravel Race last year who's hosting me in Cape Town before the race, and then we'll travel together to the race. I'm meeting a friend or a couple of friends at the race. And I think like as I've been racing more and more, every race I go to, there's like a few people who are like
Yeah.
known to me or like I'm friendly with, and you kind of build a bit of a community. So even if it's somewhere like I traveled to Finland completely on my own last year, and like I mean Finland's a European country, like I had to hop on a train and then hop off it, but like within the first evening I like sat down and had dinner with people, and I had people to ride with the next day. So I think it's partly my personality. I can just like throw myself into situations like
Sure.
that. But also the community is pretty good. You tend to see the same faces like all over the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Your 2024 was kind of complicated by a health scare, if I've got my timeline correct. Is that right?
Yeah, so 2024, I was like flying in June. Like I went to Rwanda for a training camp with a friend, and then I flew to Kenya and I raced Safari Gravel Race, which is a UCI race, and then Migration Gravel Race. I won Safari, and then I came third at Migration. And at Migration Gravel Race, I was really unwell. But because it was Migration, I was like in the middle of Kenya, I'd gone all that way. I like still raced through it. And like off the back of that, I went to Mexico, which is also altitude, and then I raced Gravel Mexico, which is a 200k race. And like partway through that race, I like had really bad chest pain, and I've been feeling really weird, and like chest tightness. And I got diagnosed with pericarditis, which is like inflammation of the pericardial sac
Yep.
around the heart. And it meant that I had to have 3 weeks of like absolutely no exercise, like lying on a sofa to like give my heart a chance to recover. And then I had to be really careful coming back to cycling. So yeah, that was pretty scary, to be honest. It could have been worse, because myocarditis is like the more dangerous version, and it could have been myocarditis,
Yeah.
which has ended people's careers, people who've had myocarditis.
Well, that's what I was going to ask is, it's one thing if you like crash and break your arm and like, okay, I need 6 weeks and then we're good, or whatever the timeline is. With something with your heart, when you're an endurance athlete, what were those, what were Maddy's inner thoughts in those weeks of like, what is going on here, and when this was going to end, and how clear of timelines were doctors giving you on this?
I think it was one of those things where you just realize how serious it is. And like I had a friend connect me to like a cycling doctor in the world tour, and he like really hammered into me like how serious it was and how important it was to like take his advice seriously with like the literally do nothing for 3 weeks and then like reassess. And then I went and I actually paid for like private healthcare in the UK to get some more scans to like see how it had progressed, to see whether I was safe to ride again, basically. But yeah, I think like cyclists is, I mean, any athlete, you want to get back doing your sport as soon as you can. And people often take like doctors' warnings and time frames with like a pinch of salt, and like maybe like
Yes.
when I tore an AC joint this year in my shoulder, and I was like on the turbo like a couple of days later, like you don't really think too much of doing stuff like that, but when it's like your heart and it's actually like potentially your life at risk, I think it's easier to take doctor's advice more seriously. But it was definitely scary, and it made me really reflect on like when I'm sick now. I don't like I woke up this morning feeling sick after World Champs, and like I didn't train today. Like me before having the pericarditis scare would have just ridden, and like I maybe wouldn't have done an interval session, but I would have ridden. And now I know the dangers of doing that, and I just let my body fully recover before I ever get training again.
Yeah. How, I know I've heard you kind of like touch on this before, but in those moments where you're trying to figure out like this is super serious and like this could end my career, how do you work through the fact that your identity at the moment is tied into this bike racing thing? And how do you kind of see beyond like, I've put all my chips into this bucket right now, and if it doesn't work out, now what?
Oh, it's such a hard question. I feel like I think I've got all my chips in the bike racing bucket at the moment, but I have other ideas and things that I do want to do at points in my life. So I think if it came down to, say, for example, if I did have a career-ending injury, I think there are other things that really excite me, and I do have other passions outside of bike racing. So I think it actually probably wouldn't be hard for me to then pivot. Like, for example, I really want to open like a cycling cafe, and I've already got like the menu planned out, and I really want to open a cafe like inspired by my travels with bike racing. So like I've written a menu that's like based off like different dishes I've had around the world, and that's something I definitely want to do at some point. And like equally, I've got things in life outside of bike racing, and I do definitely identify quite strongly as a bike racer, but I do try and like make sure that's not my only identity point, because it's never going to be a long career. Like you can have quite a decent career bike racing, but like at the end of the day, at a certain age you get slower, you get less relevant. Like you might be bored of doing Unbound 10 times. Like I don't know, I've done it twice, and I wouldn't complain if my sponsor said I don't have to do it again. Like, I think there's other things in life, and like I mean I really want to start trail running at some point and doing some other sorts of events like that. And I think I can have the identity of a bike racer at the moment whilst also still like having other things in life. And like I think it also helps, like my partner's not a cyclist, and that definitely helps. And I think I see that quite a lot with people who are in relationships where like their partner is also a pro athlete or a pro cyclist, and like I can imagine that's probably even harder if one of you needs or wants to stop. That's probably really difficult. Whereas I do have a life outside of bikes as well.
Yeah. So one of those things that you do have that is doing quite well is your YouTube channel. And as you talk about trail running, like I think about some of the best YouTube content out there is in the trail running world. But when you think about your channel, how much time do you put into that? As maybe like, do you see yourself as much as a creator, as a racer right now, or how do you feel where does that land in like the slice of Maddy's life?
I would definitely say I'm like a hybrid between like an athlete and like a content creator, because
Yeah.
I feel like, and I think that is the job of an athlete nowadays. There
Yes.
aren't many people who can get away without creating content alongside being an athlete. And I think I'm like, I get more, I have better sponsors and like more of an audience than maybe my ability is, because I can create content alongside it, and I can create content that maybe people resonate more with, because I'm
Yeah.
not like, oh, I'm this superhuman who's like got an insane VO2 max naturally and like I don't train. I'm just like, or like I train really hard, but like I'm like unachievably good. I feel like I'm more of a level where maybe people can like be like, oh, like that's actually like someone who was started bike riding at 20. Like this is something that maybe is achievable, or like at least like I'm more human, or like more
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I like to think, oh, and I'm very honest also in my social media, which I think people tend to enjoy, that I don't, it's not all like rainbows and
Yeah.
sparkles,
Yeah.
and I'll share the harder parts of the journey as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do spend a fair amount of time on my content. I probably spend less time on my like video editing than other people with YouTube channels, and that's just because I feel like my style of content is very like behind the scenes, like pieced
Yeah.
together. It's not like super cinematic.
Yeah.
And like I actually really enjoy making videos, and I would want to make better videos, but it's just an equipment thing. Like at the moment I don't have like a camera. I use
Yeah.
my phone.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's something that I definitely want to look into doing more of in the future, and like making better videos. But for now I think it does the job, and yeah, people just enjoy, I think people just enjoy feeling like they're being like carried along with the experience.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. And like you said, sometimes just being authentic, like we're just having this conversation now, but you have been highly requested by a lot of people that I've actually interviewed, that they're like, you should talk to Maddy. She seems really interesting. And I've also had a lot of people that listen DM me and say, this seems like a really interesting conversation. So what you're doing is working, because you're relating to a lot of people. And at the end of the day, like, story is what matters, not how it looks necessarily. And you're killing it with the story part. So yeah.
Cheers. No, I hope my YouTube continues to grow, slash I hope I continue to enjoy doing it. I think it's one of those things where like, yeah, I'm only going to continue doing this as I enjoy, like whilst I love doing it and enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
And I think that should be with anything in life. And at the moment I love it. I have to say races like world champs and it being more like a road race, less my vibe, but like I'm so excited to go to South Africa and do this 7-day stage race. I think it's going to be insane. That's completely up my street.
Yeah. Plus you got that latest edition of the GB kit to wear, so yeah.
Oh, what, world champs?
Yeah.
No, I didn't have the latest kit.
You didn't.
No.
Just whatever they gave you.
No, basically they like asked me to pay for kit, so I said sorry, I'm not paying for kit to represent my country.
Terrible.
So I last year's kit.
Well, it's good to know that USA Cycling isn't the only group treating their people not very well. So
I think I've heard from a lot of people that I don't think most national federations look at like gravel cycling in the way that they look at other disciplines, and like therefore there's just not the funding there, so they're not gonna support the athletes. But yeah, I think that's really, like, when I've spoken to friends in gravel, like that is pretty much every national federation at the moment, which is a shame. And like I almost kind of wish that I did better, and like I mean it would have been insane for me to be on the podium, but I was like, imagine if I podiumed and I was in the incorrect kit, like how wild would it be? That would really send a message, but unfortunately I'm not good enough for that.
It's all good. It's the spirit of that counts, I think. So all right. Well, we always kind of finish things up with, I don't call it rapid fire. It's more like random fire. And these are the questions that people really want to know. And so we'll start things off that if you and I were to go on a long bike ride someday, and it can be in England or it can be in the United States, at some point we're going to run out of food and fuel, and we're going to have to stop at a gas station or a petrol station and find something not super healthy to eat, but it'll get us home. So in that instance, what are you getting to eat and drink to get us home?
Oh, good question. Well, I actually really like going to nice bakeries, and I'll
I
specifically
knew you were going to say that.
buy at nice bakeries. I was gonna say I'm not really a gas station kind of gal. Um, if I had to stop at a gas station, I don't even know because I don't stop at gas stations. I guess I get ice, what do you call it? Iced tea,
Yep.
pretty sugary. I'll get that sometimes. If it's really hot, I'll get that. But yeah, I typically stop at a bakery. That's more my
Okay. And
go-to.
what are you getting at this bakery?
It depends on the bakery. A lot of the time, cinnamon rolls. I
Okay.
love a cinnamon roll.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm
I
here
like
for
a
that.
almond croissant, pistachio croissant.
Listen to that French pronunciation, folks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit, because I think people following you on social know that you like to bake, and that apparently one of your favorite ride foods, like on the turbo, is also hot cross buns. Is that correct?
Yeah, my favorite ride food, full stop, is a hot cross bun. I don't think people appreciate how good hot cross buns are for riding. Like, I was on a ride, and I have to give credit to this friend. I was on a ride with a friend like a couple of years ago, and he whipped out a pack of like 6 hot cross buns like from a gas station, and I was like, "Sorry, what? Like hot cross buns riding?" And he was like, "Have you seen the macros?" And I was like, "No." He showed me the macros. I am forever a hot cross bun advocate. They are like 40 grams of carbs, a few grams, like maybe 5 grams of protein, barely any fat, like a couple of grams of fat, perfect for riding.
Yeah.
And if you get, and I'm quite picky with my hot cross buns because in the UK we have like bougier supermarkets, like more
Sure.
fancy, and then they do better hot cross buns. And it's important to go for those ones because they're like squidgier and less like crumbly. So
Yep.
then you can like squidge them down, you like compact them to take them in your pocket better. And like I will like get specifically the apple and cinnamon ones because they also squidge down better because the like apple makes them a bit squidgier. And then yeah, I put them in my pocket and I ride with them, and even on a turbo, they're great.
That is fantastic. And you like to bake these as well? Is that what I
I,
understand?
I've actually never baked hot cross buns. I've like baked ride snacks before, but actually
Okay.
I'm like really into cooking more than baking.
Okay. Okay.
I need to get into baking more. But my problem is like I do have a lack of like self-control when it comes to like baked goods. So
Sure.
I've never really overly got into baking because I know like if I baked a batch of cookies, they wouldn't last more than
Sure.
24 hours.
Yeah. You need a big riding block to do that. So
Yeah, exactly. I have to like
okay.
freeze them to stop myself.
Fair. Fair. Okay. So the next question is, are you a music listener on the bike?
No, I'm a podcast listener.
Okay. Tell us.
Apart from effort sessions. So
Okay.
I listen to podcasts, and honestly, I listen to anything. Like I do so many hours on the bike. I've run out of podcasts that I'm
Yeah.
like actively interested in,
Yeah.
and I will literally just let like Spotify pick for me, and I just listen to people chatting. So yeah, podcasts, and then when I do efforts, I put on one specific feel good workout playlist, and like
Okay.
that just runs.
Sure. And on this playlist, if you could only have one song, tell us what it would be.
Gosh, that's so hard. Any song would get annoying. There's a there's a Disney song. Is it Disney? Yeah. From the film Encanto, called
Sure.
I think it's called Surface Pressure,
Yeah.
and it's like
That's
it's
a banger.
such a hype song. Like I feel like that. I once put that on when I was doing efforts, and I was like, "Wow, that gets you going."
For sure. Yeah. Well, okay, we're good with that. So then the last music related question. If you were to happen to be at Unbound for the 10th time and
Yeah.
there was an activation going on, if you can imagine an activation at Unbound. And it happened to be everybody gathering to each sing one karaoke song. What song would you get up and sing in front of everyone?
Oh, that's so hard. Okay. Well, the thing is, when I choose karaoke songs, I often get shot down and told that they're too long or too embarrassing. Because I will end up going for like a musical theatre song. The last time I did, I did a song from Wicked.
Ah, awesome.
Yeah, so I wouldn't do that because that's not socially acceptable. So, karaoke song.
Okay. All
I'm
right.
actually not sure. I do enjoy karaoke, but my problem is I get too into it and go for like a 4 minute long song.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's understandable. There's rumors that the Holy Spirit of Gravel and I are working on an Unbound karaoke night at some
Oh my
point.
gosh, you should do it. I would participate.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Maybe I could sing Under Pressure from
Yeah,
Encanto.
there you go. That'd be a great one. Okay. You are in London, so I feel like your answer to this holds more strength than maybe others. But are you into Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings?
I prefer Harry Potter to Lord of the Rings. But
Okay.
I wouldn't say I'm like super into it. Like I'm not like a Potterhead, like the people who
Okay.
are super into it. But yeah, like I've not actually read either of the books. I had one of the Harry Potter books in Latin when I was younger, but
Sure.
I didn't get through it that far because I was learning Latin at school and I thought that was a cool way to
Cool
keep
thing. Yeah, of course. Of
to read
course.
Harry Potter in Latin.
Well, as a Harry Potter fan, what house do you believe you would get sorted to in that series?
I actually think maybe Gryffindor, to be fair.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, or Ravenclaw, but yeah, I'm definitely not Slytherin. I'd
that's
hope
too
I'm not
bad.
Slytherin.
That's too bad. That's too bad. We can't, and you can't all be Slytherin, so it's all right.
So,
Yeah, just like I tell everyone, you can't all be Gryffindor. But your personality seems like it could fit there, so it's all
maybe.
good.
Well,
Yeah.
Hufflepuff are like the confused outcasts, aren't they? So I hope I'm not Hufflepuff. And then Ravenclaw are like the nerds, so maybe Ravenclaw, to be fair.
Yeah. Yeah. All good. All good. Okay. I preface this question by calling it the Wahoo question, but I'm sponsored by Wahoo, so like that's why. So if you have a different head unit, you can by all means say what it is. But when you're riding your bike, Maddy, at the World Championships, what is on your screen? Like main screen. I don't want to hear about the seventh screen in that you swipe over to. Like what's your main screen when you're riding and racing?
So it depends on the race. For World Champs, I specifically set up, so I've got a Chorus Dura and I set it up with a really weird screen. So it was like the map, so like with navigation, and then on the bottom, I just had the elevation profile, like the current elevation profile. And on that, it had distance to go. So I had distance to the finish, which I could see the whole time, but I could also see the elevation at every exact moment. But it switches to when I'm on a climb, it switches to elevation of that climb, which gives me like distance to go of the climb, height to go of the climb. And that was because I didn't want to see my power. Because I was like, because normally I have map, 3 second average power, heart rate, and distance or time, and I switch between distance and time.
Yep.
That's normally what I have when I race. But I've decided recently to switch power off because I think sometimes I pull back in races because I look at my power number and I'm like, that's too many watts for this period of time, rather than just like racing off intuition and racing off feel. So I now turn the power screen off and I'm just racing to like, okay, we're about to hit a climb, so I need to position myself well, or like we're about to hit a descent.
Sure.
So yeah, this is a new tactic. I don't know if I'll keep it up for gravel burn, but we'll see.
No, I like that. It's very similar to during a race what I have on my screen too. So, yeah, good stuff. Okay, last one. You have gone all over the world racing. I want to hear about your favorite race you've done, and then I also want to hear what is one race you have not done yet that like you're looking at next year or in the future where you're like, I gotta be there for that.
Okay. So favorite race I've ever done. I've done so many good races.
Yeah, you have.
Yeah. I actually think the one I did in Chile this year was pretty awesome. I think Chile or Brazil this year have been one of my favorites. Brazil was because I think when you have a really good race, it does affect your opinion of the race.
100%.
And like really surprised myself by winning that one. So I think like that has like really positive memories, but it was also like it was pretty technical gravel in places, people all over the climbs. I was in Brazil, like I was having acai after every training ride, and the atmosphere was amazing. But then Chile was like a 5-day race where like we did one of the stages was delayed so we could go whale watching. Like it was just one of those races that was like experience as well as the race.
Yeah.
So that was awesome. And yeah, to be fair, actually, the Rift mountain bike, like I'm not a mountain biker, but that was an amazing experience.
Yeah, it looked like it.
Yeah, me and Chase were both suffering with the mountain biking. But I think, I mean, he wasn't suffering like I was, but like technically it was like enduro trails. It was tough.
Sure.
But that was beautiful.
Yeah, where would you love to go that you haven't, that you just think that looks incredible?
I am hoping there's going to be a UCI race in Japan next year. That's somewhere that's like massively on my to-go list. And I've got a Japanese tire sponsor, so that would work out quite nicely.
Sure.
I could take a trip to Japan. I also really want to do the Com challenge in Taiwan. That's on a to-do.
Yep.
But I don't think I'll be able to do it next year because I think I've got a friend's wedding. I've got so many places that I really want to race. More of South America. I want to do more of South America. I think Transcordilleras Colombia next Feb is going to be like, I probably will want to live in Colombia after that race. I wouldn't be surprised.
Right on. Well, Maddy, this has been awesome. Thank you for coming on and sharing your story and being vulnerable about parts of it as well. I really appreciate it.
Cheers. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks so much for hanging out with Maddy and me today. If you enjoyed the episode, do me a favor and share it with someone that you think might enjoy it as well. I hope you are having an amazing day. And regardless, remember that you are loved.